15 forgotten soul foods no one makes anymore. Have you ever wondered what happened to the soulful flavors that once filled Grandma's kitchen? Those slow-cooked meals seasoned with love, history, and tradition. From crispy hoecakes to tender pig's feet, every dish carried a story. Yet many of these timeless recipes are quietly disappearing as convenience takes over our tables. Could we be losing more than just food? Could we be losing a piece of our heritage? Here are 15 forgotten soul foods no one makes anymore. Number 1. Chitlins. Chitterlings. Pig intestines known as chitlins are typically cleaned, boiled, and occasionally fried or stewed. Their origins are in survival food during periods of economic hardship and slavery, even though they are regarded as a delicacy in traditional Southern and African American cuisine. They serve as a symbol of ingenuity, transforming leftover animal parts into something substantial, tasty, and significant. The finest portions of animals were kept for slaveholders, while enslaved African Americans in the American South were sometimes given the leftover or unwanted parts of animals, such as intestines, feet, ears, and organs. Because white slave masters did not think these portions were edible, enslaved people came up with creative ways to clean, season, and turn them into nutritious meals. Dishes like chitlins persisted in the culinary repertoire after freedom, becoming comfort food that was emblematic of ethnic pride and the past. They were particularly consumed at family get-togethers, Christmas, and New Year's celebrations. The term chitlin circuit has made its way into entertainment history, referring to a chain of Black-owned performance venues that served as the birthplaces of legendary performers like James Brown and Aretha Franklin. When chitlins are purchased, they are not yet cooked. For them to be safe and edible, they need to be well cleaned, whether they are frozen or fresh. Today, this is the largest obstacle to making them. They can result in foodborne disease if improperly prepared or cleaned. A strong aroma is released throughout the cooking process. The ingredients used for preparing the chitlin are 10 pounds clean chitlins, 1 large onion, chopped, 2 to 3 cloves garlic, minced, 2 tablespoons apple cider vinegar, 1 teaspoon crushed red pepper, 2 bay leaves, 1 stalk celery. Salt and black pepper to taste are optional. Pour enough water into a large stock pot to totally cover the chitlins. Add the bay leaves, vinegar, onion, and garlic. Reduce to low heat after bringing to a rolling boil. Simmer, covered, stirring periodically for 3 to 5 hours. As particles or bubbles rise, skim them off. To give the cooked chitlins a crispy texture, fry them in heated oil. Serve hot with cornbread and spicy sauce. Number 2. Neck bones and gravy. An excellent illustration of poverty cuts are neck bones, which are less expensive and frequently throw away parts of the animal that were accepted in African American societies both during and after slavery. Long, slow cooking created rich, filling, and incredibly gratifying meals from these simple ingredients. They were particularly prevalent in Black working-class kitchens, rural Southern homes, and Sunday suppers or comfort food during difficult times. The neck bones are often first browned, then simmered until they are soft and fall off the bone. And lastly, the pan drippings are used to make a thick gravy. The greatest servings for neck bones and gravy are hot buttered cornbread, mashed potatoes, and traditional white rice, green beans, collard greens, or steamed cabbage, fried black-eyed peas, or okra. The gravy is the main attraction, so pour it on liberally. By today's standards, slices with a lot of bone are considered messy or unrefined. Younger generations might not know how to consume or prepare them. Long simmered dinners gave way to convenience dishes and boneless chops. People stopped eating fattier cuts of beef due to health trends. People's cultural disengagement from soul food customs occurred when they left the South or rural life. A great option is to add smoked neck bones to the gravy for a smoky flavor. To enhance the savory flavor, use celery or mushrooms. Finish with a dash of milk or cream to give the gravy more substance. Not only is neck bones and gravy a comfort dish, but it's also a part of culinary history. This recipe teaches perseverance, ingenuity, and how to make small ingredients taste great. It serves as a reminder that often the most underappreciated sources provide the tastiest meals. Gravy and neck bones were staples of the Sunday supper, which was a meal that families would get together for after church. A real example of creating something out of nothing. The cut was inexpensive, but the love, time, and seasoning that went into cooking it transformed it into something rich, savory, and profoundly significant. Number 3. Hog head cheese. Hog head cheese is a cold, gelatinous meat terrine cooked by boiling a pig's head, including cheeks, nose, and occasionally tongue, until the meat slips off the bone, despite the name suggesting otherwise. After that, the flesh is diced, seasoned, and suspended in a natural gelatin that is created from the pig's skull collagen. After that, it is placed into loaf pans or molds and let cool until solid. Hog head cheese, which has its roots in European peasant customs, was particularly popular in southern black households. It was a method to respect the entire animal and turn indigestible parts, such as cheeks, ears, and jowls, into something delectable. For hours, the pig's head is cooked with spices, onions, and garlic. When the meat is soft, the bones are removed and combined with the broth that contains a lot of gelatin. The flavorful pork-filled jelly is formed when this combination is chilled until it solidifies. You may anticipate a combination of delicate flesh and a gelatinous texture, along with a rich, porky taste. To enhance tang and kick, some people add vinegar or spicy sauce. People who grew up with it adore it, but it's an acquired taste. It can be thinly sliced and served chilled, often eaten on crackers, toast, or with spicy sauce and mustard. For a different texture, it can be grilled or fried. It can also be chopped and occasionally used in salads or sandwiches. It may be daunting in both appearance and feel. Gelatinous meals are not as popular with modern consumers because cleaning and cooking require time and effort. Furthermore, it is more difficult to locate pig heads in the grocery shop. Nevertheless, hog head cheese transforms every part of the animal into a flavorful celebration, serving as a potent reminder of culinary creativity and cultural pride. Number 4. Souse. Pig's feet, ears, tails, and other leftover parts are typically used to make souse, a cold, vinegary, pickled pork dish. After being cooked until it is soft, it is cooled in a vinegar-based, onion and pepper-based sour broth. The end product is a tasty, refreshing meat salad, which is frequently consumed as an appetizer or snack in Caribbean and Southern African American cuisines. The Old English word for souse means to pickle or to submerge in a liquid. Meat preserved in a tasty brine is basically what it is. Black households in the American South began to employ souse as a technique to maximize the whole pig, particularly when good slices were hard to come by. It's an excellent illustration of nose-to-tail dining, a culinary approach that respects the whole animal and showcases tenacity and creativity in the kitchen. Sauce is a common snack or appetizer, particularly during the summer months, and is frequently served cold or at room temperature. Some people like to add sauce to rice meals or stews, or they want to reheat it for a short time. For a vinegary punch, some people like it stuffed into sandwiches, on crackers, or heaped on cornbread. For contemporary palates used to mild flavors, the potent vinegar flavor might be polarizing due to its strength. Many younger cooks lack the preparation and expertise necessary to use pig's feet and other offcuts. Nose-to-tail foods like souse are no longer common on menus due to cultural changes and evolving culinary preferences. Certain portions of hog may not always be readily available in typical supermarkets. By using milder vinegars, adding fresh herbs like parsley or thyme to enhance tastes, or neutralizing tartness with a little sugar or fruit juice, chefs and home cooks are reviving sauce, adding souse to sliders or tacos to give them a fusion flavor. In gastropubs honoring traditional Southern cuisine, souse is paired with beer or homemade cocktails. Number 5. Smothered rabbit. Smothered rabbit is a soft, slow-cooked rabbit meal that is usually simmered in a rich sauce mixed with spices, onions, and garlic after being seared. In the past, this meal was popular throughout the rural South, particularly in African American homes where killing and rearing small animals like rabbits was a daily occurrence. In the past, rabbit was a fairly affordable meat option for low-income rural families in the South. Wild rabbits were frequently hunted to feed big families, and raising them didn't need a lot of land. Rabbit was a component of the make-do culinary style in African American households, which transformed what was on hand into something special. The term smothered simply describes the Southern method of slow braising meat in gravy to create a rich, multi-layered taste, frequently after it has been browned. In many Black families, smothered rabbit was a Sunday dinner mainstay, usually served with cornbread or greens on the side and over rice or mashed potatoes. Unless you hunt or visit trained butchers, it is more difficult to get rabbit meat in most current grocery shops. Nowadays, fewer households hunt or cultivate their own food. Rabbit is something that many younger folks have never tried. Some people are uncomfortable eating rabbits because they consider them pets rather than food. It's a slow-cooked labor of love, not quick or easy, like many smothered foods. To soften the gamey flavor, immerse a wild rabbit in buttermilk or seawater for the entire night. Domestic rabbits are simpler for novices to handle since they are softer and more gentle. You may serve smothered rabbit with mashed potatoes or white rice, stuffed mustard or collard greens, fried green tomatoes or black-eyed peas, steaming biscuits or cornbread. On top, a dash of vinegar pepper sauce or spicy sauce. Smothered rabbit is a chunk of soul food history, not just a dish. It symbolizes a period when people shared what they had, prepared with love and patience, and appreciated the entire animal. It has taste, soul, and merits a comeback. Interestingly, these foods were made using just intuition, memory, and soul, not measurements. Number 6. Oxtails. One of the tastiest and most delicious meats in classic soul food, oxtails has evolved from its lowly origins to upscale places to dine, but it still has a strong cultural importance in African American cuisine. The thick, meaty sections of a cow's tail that are rich in connective tissue, collagen, and marrow are called oxtails. They become fork-tender chunks floating in a smooth, creamy sauce when slow cooked. Black Southern chefs have long valued oxtails despite its reputation as a throwaway cut because of their taste, adaptability, and link to maximizing the use of all animal parts. The heritage of oxtails is one of inventiveness and survival. In the American South, enslaved Africans were frequently given offcuts such as tails, feet, and necks. Though viewed as leftovers, these were transformed into filling, very flavored dinners. Oxtail stew or smothered oxtails were a favorite in many Black homes and were often saved for Sunday dinners, special occasions, or family get-togethers. With layers of richness that form over time, the flavor is deep, meaty, and somewhat sweet from the marrow. Oxtails become juicy, soft, and gelatinous when slow braised. The collagen naturally thickens the sauce and the flesh falls off the bone. Traditionally, Southern braised oxtails are seasoned with paprika, cayenne, garlic, onion powder, salt, and pepper. To add flavor, they are gently dredged in flour and fried in oil. Slowly simmer in a saucepan with aromatics such as bay leaf, thyme, celery, garlic, and onion. Cooked in water or broth for 2 to 4 hours, or until the meat is so soft it melts in your mouth. Commonly produced from pan drippings and thickened naturally, or with a small amount of flour or cornstarch, and finished with a rich brown gravy. Smothered oxtails are typically served with rice and peas or white rice, green beans, cabbage, or collard greens, mashed potatoes or candied yams, cookies or cornbread, a little vinegar pepper sauce, or spicy sauce. Oxtails are frequently available at butcher shops or international markets. They are not usually stocked by large grocery chains. Younger people tend to think of them as old-fashioned cuisine, and fewer of them know how to make them. What was formerly considered scrap meat has evolved into a soul food delight. Number 7. Ham hocks and beans. One of those soul food mainstays that makes very little into a lot is ham hocks and beans. In order to create a rich, cozy pot of food, it simmers robust beans, often white, pinto, or lima, with meaty, smoky pig hocks until the flavors blend together. Although this recipe isn't particularly elegant, it is incredibly filling, nourishing, and based on the same principles that characterize soul food: creativity, taste, and love. In the American South, ham hocks, or the joint between a pig's foot and leg, were frequently regarded as leftovers, particularly during and after slavery. Unwanted or leftover meat slices were frequently provided to enslaved individuals, who were forced to make the most of them. But the foods they produced are among the tastiest ones still consumed today. For Black communities in the South, Beans were a staple crop since they were affordable, satisfying, and simple to farm. When combined with rice or cornmeal, ham hocks and beans made a tasty, nutrient-dense supper that could serve a large household. The type of beans used depends on the region and family custom. Black-eyed peas or field peas in certain varieties, lima beans, particularly in Georgia and the Carolinas, pinto beans for a deeper, earthier flavor, navy beans or great northern beans for a creamy, soft texture, and even red beans in Louisiana-style versions. Soak the beans overnight or use the quick soak method to get it ready. If the ham hocks are cured or smoked, rinse them and check for more salt. Simmer the ham hocks with onions, garlic, bay leaf, and black pepper in a large saucepan or Dutch oven. Red pepper flakes, celery, and thyme are optional. After 1 to 2 hours of simmering, when the hocks begin to soften, add the beans. For an extra 1.5 to 2 hours, simmer on low and slow until the meat is coming from the bone and the beans are tender. Return to the pot with the meat that has been shredded from the hocks. Add salt at the very end, since ham hocks might be salty. It is served with fried cabbage or greens, buttermilk cornbread, or steamed rice, with a dash of spicy sauce or vinegar pepper sauce on top. Eaten occasionally with only a spoon and nothing else. It's rustic, filling, and stretches wonderfully, making it perfect for leftovers or serving a party. Number 8. Liver and onions. Liver and onions is a straightforward yet tasty dish that is created by pan-frying thinly sliced beef or hog liver and serving it with gravy and caramelized onions. Once a weeknight or payday dinnertime mainstay, it's a classic in soul food homes. Nothing was wasted in the tradition of soul cuisine, even organ meats like liver. When Black families were struggling financially, liver, whether from cattle, pork, or chicken, was one of the more available and reasonably priced protein sources. However, it was more than simply a matter of need. Liver and onions gained popularity as a comfort food because of its strong flavor and ability to keep you full. It was particularly popular for Sunday suppers and midweek meals, sometimes accompanied with grits, rice, or mashed potatoes. One of the most nutrient-dense foods on the market is liver, which is rich in iron, vitamin A, vitamin B12, protein, and zinc. This was particularly crucial during a period when people couldn't afford luxury meals or supplements. An ideal lunch for boosting energy and combating exhaustion, particularly in older adults and kids. It tastes very spicy, earthy, and somewhat metallic. The intensity of the liver is adjusted and mellowed by the onions. Many people avoid it because it may be soft when cooked correctly, but becomes tough and chalky if overdone. It is prepared by soaking the liver, but not required. To soften and lighten the taste, let it sit in milk or buttermilk for 30 to 60 minutes. Add salt, pepper, garlic powder, and maybe a pinch of paprika for seasoning. For a slight crust, dredge in flour. Optional, but usual in soul food prep. Put the onions in a cast iron pan and cook until they are tender and brown. Quickly sear liver slices for a few minutes on each side in hot butter or oil. Return to the skillet with the onions. Gravy can occasionally be prepared by mixing pan drippings with flour, broth, or water. Serve hot, frequently with rice, grits, mashed potatoes, or smothered cabbage. Liver and onions were considered a strengthening meal in many African American and Southern families. Parents prepared it for their children before tests or while they were recuperating from a sickness. Because of its high iron concentration, it was also frequently given to expectant mothers long before prenatal vitamins were widely available. Number 9. Tomato and rice. A simple and hearty soul food side dish. Tomato and rice is prepared by boiling rice with tomatoes and spices. Hearty main courses like fried chicken, smothered pork chops, or greens are frequently served with it because it adds a delicate tang and a little acidity to balance out heavier foods. This combination of rice and tomato originated in Southern African American cookery when ingenuity was essential. In this method, basic items like rice and fresh or canned tomatoes are transformed into a tasty and satisfying dish. When fresh ingredients were expensive or in short supply, and canned tomatoes were a cheap pantry staple, this recipe was particularly well-liked. It's a popular comfort food that makes many people think of family dinners prepared at home. Among the ingredients are Profile Fresh, canned, crushed, diced, or tomato sauce tomatoes, rice, typically white, long grain or medium grain, garlic with onion, bell pepper optional, water or chicken broth, salt, pepper, sugar to reduce the acidity, and perhaps a dash of cayenne, paprika, or chili powder for warmth are the seasonings. Fresh herbs, such as thyme or parsley, are optional. The aromatics give the rice depth and warmth, while the tomatoes give it a vibrant, slightly acidic flavor. It is perfect as a side dish with smothered or fried meats like oxtails, pork chops, or chicken. When paired with cooked greens such as collards, you can also add a dash of vinegar pepper sauce or hot sauce for a little kick, and for a stew or bean base. It is adaptable and may be dressed up or down based on your available items. It is less known today because more complex or international rice recipes, such as Spanish rice or jambalaya, have become popular. Younger cooks who are not familiar with its flavor sometimes view it as being overly simple or old-fashioned. Simple, slow-cooked dishes have been displaced by a reliance on rapid convenience cuisine. Number 10. Pig's feet. Trotters, another name for pig's feet, are the lower portion of a pig's leg, which includes the foot and occasionally the ankle joint. They are full of collagen and connective tissue, which breaks down into a rich, smooth texture when cooked slowly. This gives soups, stews, and braises an amazing body. Pig's feet were prized elements in African American communities, but they were frequently viewed as undesirable or scraps by mainstream markets. Pig feet were cheap, tasty, and nutritious. Therefore, enslaved people in poor rural households used every part of the animal. They were a mainstay in soups, stews, and pickled foods that were cooked slowly. Pig's feet are a Southern sign of tradition and ingenuity that ties families to their past. The flavor of mild pork is rich and flavorful when cooked for a sufficient amount of time. Trotters, which are rich in collagen, become soft, gelatinous, and a little sticky. They are valued for giving food, body, and texture. The skin and connective tissue become very soft when cooked, adding a wonderful richness to the broth or sauce. Before cooking, pig's feet must be well cleansed and occasionally blanched to get rid of contaminants. Usually cooked for a number of hours in a braising or simmering pot with spices, black pepper, thyme, and cayenne, and aromatics such as onion, garlic, and bay leaf. Pig's feet are occasionally pickled in a vinegar brine, a common practice in various Caribbean and Southern soul cuisines. In soups and stews, pig's feet add weight and richness to gumbo, bean soups, and hog head cheese. Which of these recipes will you be trying out? Number 11. Hot water cornbread. Making hot water cornbread involves combining cornmeal with boiling water, forming the mixture into patties, and then deep frying them in hot oil or fat. No milk or eggs, just simple kitchen ingredients turned into something crisp, golden, and incredibly fulfilling. This bread was and still is a staple in many Southern Black homes, particularly when ingredients are scarce and time is of the essence. Back in the days of slavery and Reconstruction, hot water cornbread was made with only cornmeal, water, and salt. It didn't need to be baked. It could be fried and served with anything from stews or fried catfish to greens and beans. It could be prepared over a stovetop or over an open fire without the need for an oven, which made it particularly helpful in neglected and rural areas. In comparison to its baked version, hot water cornbread is more traditional, rustic, and frequently has a stronger corn taste. Classic ingredients include salt, boiling water, and white or yellow cornmeal, or stone ground if you wish to stick to tradition. Depending on your family's customs, adding a little sugar or fat is optional. For frying, use lard, oil, or bacon fat. It is made by boiling water and then adding it straight to cornmeal that has been seasoned with a pinch of salt. Mix until a thick, scoopable dough forms. The cornmeal will get more hydrated if you let it rest for a few minutes. Make patties or scoop spoonfuls of dough, roughly the size of a biscuit. Cook in heated oil, lard, or bacon fat until both sides are golden brown and crispy, generally 3 to 5 minutes each side. Serve hot after draining on paper towels. It can be served over smothered cabbage, collard greens, or black-eyed peas to absorb the juices, in addition to fried chitlins, oxtails, or catfish, dipped in honey, syrup, or molasses for sweet variations, just as a snack straight out of the skillet. For a homey, tasty bite, some people even crumble it into pot liquor, which is the rich liquid behind after boiling greens. Some people forget about it since packaged, oven-baked cornmeal mixes like Jiffy have taken its place in contemporary kitchens. For health concerns, frying meals became less popular. The number of people who can cook without a recipe or who use field-based cooking has decreased in recent years. Those in newer generations who were not raised with it view it as old school. Number 12. Butter beans with salt pork. Butter beans, often referred to as giant lima beans, are named for their delicate, buttery flavor and soft, creamy texture. They absorb all of the salty, smoky flavor of the meat when cooked gently with salt pork, transforming a simple pot of beans into something substantial, soulful, and memorable. This recipe is a perfect illustration of soul food creativity, as it makes use of cheap ingredients to feed large gatherings. Its origins lie in the inventive utilization of every crop and animal part in enslaved African American food. Salt pork was frequently one of the few inexpensive meat options. It is a fatty, cured pork belly that isn't smoked like bacon. Rehydrating, storing, and growing butter beans were all simple. Together, they produced a dish that was cheap, full of nutrients, and incredibly gratifying. Pairing these beans with salt pork, one of the easiest meats for working-class families to obtain, created a dinner that was hearty and flavorful enough to satisfy a multitude. Before the beans and water were added, the salt pork, which is often a piece of fatty cured pig belly, would be roasted in the bottom of a pot to release its fat and enhance its taste. The beans absorbed all of that richness as the stew simmered, becoming softer and more luscious. You may notice a bay leaf or a sprinkle of black pepper floating in the pot, and occasionally onions or garlic were added for added depth. To balance the saltiness, some chefs like to add a teaspoon of sugar. Others preferred to add a dash of pepper vinegar for a tangy finish. Hot cornbread, which is ideal for scooping or dipping, is typically served alongside this dish. To complete the meal, it may also be served with fried pork or collard greens. Sundays and the winter months, when you needed something hearty and warm to fill you up, were when it was most popular. Butter beans with salt pork is still one of those foods that evokes strong memories for individuals who grew up eating it, even if it's less popular now, primarily because fewer people cook with salt pork or dry beans anymore. Yes, it's a taste of the past, but it also serves as a reminder that even the most unassuming sources may have flavor. Number 13. Hoppin' John. Hoppin' John represents luck, tradition, and the resilient spirit of the African American South, and is more than simply a bowl of rice and peas. For years, this straightforward yet potent dish has graced Southern menus, particularly on New Year's Day. It is traditionally made with black-eyed peas, white rice, and a small amount of salt pork or bacon. Hoppin' John has its origins in West African cuisine, where staple foods like rice and lentils have long been used. Over time, the recipe changed in low-country kitchens, particularly in South Carolina and Georgia, where rice plantations previously dominated the terrain. Africans who were enslaved introduced the ingredients and cooking methods to the Americas. Hoppin' John became a permanent part of the Gullah Geechee community's culinary legacy, and many African foodways were preserved there. Hoppin' John is really a recipe about maximizing what you have. In order to add flavor, dried black-eyed peas are sometimes cooked with garlic, onions, and a chunk of smoked ham or salt pork. White rice, long grain, is cooked separately until it is fluffy. Next, the two are blended and served piled in a dish or folded together. For a little heat, some people add cayenne or spicy sauce. Others add celery or bell pepper for more flavor. When prepared properly, it's a straightforward process that produces a smoky, earthy, and incredibly reassuring aroma. In the South, eating Hoppin' John on New Year's Day is a long-standing custom that is believed to bring wealth and good fortune. The black-eyed peas stand in for coins, and the trinity of good fortune is completed by serving them with cornbread for gold and collard greens for money. Some people refer to leftovers eaten the next day as Skippin' Jenny, a thrifty gesture that is also believed to double your luck. Number 14. Hoecakes. One of those soul food mainstays that can communicate a lot without using words is a hoecake. A few simple ingredients, such as cornmeal, water, and sometimes a little oil, are combined to create thin, crispy-edged cakes that are griddled till golden brown and served hot frequently with only a drop of syrup or a swipe of butter. Easy indeed. But underneath their simplicity is a long, complex history that is connected to Southern Black cooking's lasting vigor, inventiveness, and survival. The term hoecake refers to the ancient custom of preparing these cornmeal patties on a hoe, which is a flat metal surface that is held over a fire rather than the modern gardening implement. The hoe functioned as a makeshift griddle in the early days of plantations, when slaves utilized whatever tools they could find. For laborers and field workers who wanted something quick, satisfying, and portable, their cakes were ideal since they were simple, quick, and didn't require an oven. Despite being referred to as fried cornbread or cornbread pancakes, hoecakes belong to a different category. They appear at the table with anything from fried catfish to barbecue, collard greens, and black-eyed peas, bridging the gap between bread and side dish. While some cooks keep them purely savory, others use syrup or molasses to sweeten them a little and eat them for breakfast. Number 15. Beef tongue. In the past, beef tongue was regarded as a particular delicacy by many older Southern households. Despite its initial forbidding appearance, it was a mainstay in soul food kitchens long before it lost popularity, frequently prepared slowly until it was soft enough to cut with a fork. Despite being classified as an organ meat, beef tongue has a surprisingly mild taste that is richer than ordinary roast beef without being overbearing or gamey. To soften and absorb flavor, chefs used to boil the entire tongue for hours with onions, garlic, bay leaves, and peppercorns. The meat was delicate and silky, and the thick outer skin was pulled off once it was tender. It may then be pan-fried with onions, cut and covered with brown gravy, or chilled and thinly sliced for pickling or sandwiches. On Sundays, when families gathered after church, it was typical to see beef tongue served with rice and greens or mashed potatoes. A spicy addition to balance the richness, such mustard or hot sauce, was preferred by some. Which of these rich, delicious African-American meals deserve a spot on our plates once again? Drop it in the comments below. We might feature your story in the next video.